Hello, and welcome to Scratch Paper, a writing related podcast. My name is Alicia de los Reyes, and this is episode 20. Thanks for listening. If you're a new listener, I'm so glad you found this show, and I hope you enjoy it. You can find show notes on aliciadelosreyes.com. And if you're a returning listener, thank you so much for listening in. You can subscribe to this show on iTunes and Stitcher now, and you can also listen to it on my website. So this week I'm going to give you a writing and reading update, and then I'm going to do a writing related lesson. The last two lessons have been about marketing, and now I'm going to take a break from that and talk a bit about like the actual craft of writing. And I'm going to talk again about details related to a book that I'm reading. So I'm going to do the writing update first. I've written a couple more pages for my new novel. And the novel is about, it's like a fun, to me it's a really fun novel to write. It's about a psychic. And I haven't really talked about it much on this show because I've been afraid to, but now I'm kind of stalling out. So I figured, what's the worst that can happen? I will keep stalling out. And what's great about it, what I like about it, is that it's just kind of like a fun topic. Like I have this psychic and I can basically make her do whatever I want. So like she can hear something or not hear something. She could like see the future or not see the future. So that's kind of like a fun game maker for my story. And so the premise is basically that this psychic, whose name right now is Leah, gets asked by a woman to help her with her foster daughter who's not speaking. And the twist is that the woman and her foster daughter are from a really big like Christian megachurch. So I have this psychic going into a megachurch, and I'm always fascinated by megachurches and evangelical Christians. So anyway, it's been really fun to write. But like I mentioned, I kind of stalled out. I'm on page 75, I think, and I really wanted to write 100 pages, and I'm just like slowing down, but I'm still doing the writing exchange with my friend Larry, and that has been going great. Like both Larry and I have kept up our writing and done this exchange now for about 2 months, maybe a little bit more. And I'm just like a huge fan of having a friend wait for my writing at the other end of like an email. That is like sometimes my only motivator for writing at all. That and this podcast, which I maybe said in the last episode, I try not to record it unless I've actually written something because I want to have something to say in my writing update. So I kind of follow that rule to force myself to write. But anyway, so that was my rather long writing update. The reading update. So I've been reading a book by Elizabeth Kostova called The Historian, and it's about vampires. And it's actually related to the lesson that I'm going to talk about today, details and kind of tone. But I just wanted to share a bit about the book. So The Historian is a totally creepy book about a woman who is telling the story later and talking about how as a kid, she basically like hunted a vampire, and it includes the backstory about her father's advisor, and all these people have been like hunted by vampires or maybe hunted by vampires, and Dracula. It's all about the history of Dracula, and it's like a really, really long book. So Elizabeth Kostova has written 2 books, The Historian, which is her first one, and The Swan Thieves, which is her second one. And I read The Swan Thieves first, and I absolutely loved it, and it's like 1,200 pages. And I think The Historian is, I don't know how many pages it is, but I'm on like page, I think I looked it up, it's like 670 pages. So I'm about 150 pages from the end, and I like it. It's really good. I have to say I like The Swan Thieves better, but they're both like really great fiction, really engaging, and about like interesting things. The Swan Thieves is about an artist who is in a mental hospital, and his doctor who's telling the story, and the artist won't speak, and the last thing he did was attack a picture called The Swan Thieves. He like attacked this painting in a museum. And so the doctor is like basically going on a hunt to try and dig up clues about this guy's life and figure out why he stopped talking. So, yeah, that is an excellent book. Highly recommend The Swan Thieves. But just a quick aside about these two long books that I've read, they both have made me think like, why are most books shorter? Like, why are most mainstream fiction books like 150 to 200 pages? Because each of these books, especially The Swan Thieves, like didn't feel long. I like The Historian's starting to feel a little bit long right now, but The Swan Thieves, it just like there was so much happening in the story. I wasn't like, oh my God, I still have 200 pages left. Like that's a whole nother book. So that's just very amazing to me and very amazing. That's just amazing to me. And I just think it's like something to throw out there. Like your book doesn't have to be 150 pages. Maybe it would be better as 300 pages. And I was talking about this with my husband, Andrew, and he mentioned that like fantasy is often really long. So like different genres kind of have different standards. But mainstream fiction seems to be pretty solidly 150 to 200 pages. So that's just interesting. A fun fact. Another book where I had this experience was The Goldfinch, which was kind of funny because I checked it out as an ebook and I hadn't seen it in print. And I was reading it and I was like, wow, this is really taking me a long time to read. And I don't think I actually finished it because it got really depressing. But I saw the book later in the library and I was like, oh my God, it's like, it looks like a dictionary. It's like the fattest book I've ever seen. So I was pretty proud of myself for reading as much as I did. But yeah, that's another book that just doesn't feel long. Like I stopped because I was getting depressed, not because I was getting bored. Like it's like so many books in one. It was very engaging. So anyway, that was just an aside. Let me get into the actual lesson, which I said before is about details and tone. So I've talked about details before, I think, on here, and how details really, like, to me, are the story. Like, when you tell a story, you tell it through details, because a story is not something like a good story is not something like, I took a bike ride, right? Like, that wouldn't be a story. You'd be like, I coasted along the street and saw the gravel by the side of the road. Like, you'd add in the details. And it's kind of a roundabout way of saying like details are important to a story. But what I want to talk about now is like how you can make your details reveal or match the tone of your story. So what made me think of this is in The Historian, it's a totally creepy book. And there's vampires, people dying, and like you don't really know what's going to happen or who they're kind of hunting down. But there's definitely a lot of death, and like Vlad the Impaler has all these gruesome deaths he did to people, gruesome ways he killed and tortured people. And so instead of just being like you're not going to write, this is a gruesome book, right? You're going to weave that in. And so the way that Elizabeth Kostova does it is through word choice when she's talking about details. So what I mean by this is like, there's a lot of books in this book. They're doing a lot of research, the characters. And so often the pages are bone colored. And I noticed this a couple times because it's a long book. But they'll find bone colored pages. And there's like worn leather and like red, dark red curtains, things like that. So the way that these details are described make the book actually creepy. So in contrast, you could imagine a story that's like happy about researchers learning about like rainbows and unicorns. The books might be like marshmallow white or like glittery white. The pages would be like glittery white. And the curtains would be like pink and blue and purple. They wouldn't be like dark velvet brocade red. And so I think this is a really interesting thing to look for when you're reading, because you'll find how tone like informs the theme and vice versa, whether it's an essay or a story or a novel. One essay that comes to mind is called Black Men in Public Spaces, which I read as part of an anthology when I was teaching at UNH. And the essay is fairly old, but it talks about a lot of things that are happening today still. And basically it's about this man who's a I think he's a journalist and he's a black man, and he talks about how he feels uneasy because other people feel uneasy around him as a black man walking around like the streets of New York. And so he will do things like whistle symphonies to show people that he's not dangerous, basically. So anyway, the interesting thing about the tone of this essay is that it's like really almost formal. Like the language is elevated compared to other essays in the anthology. Like the words are longer, and the language is very precise. And I think that one reason he did that is to show, like, to combat the stereotype of an unintelligent black man, to show that he is educated, and also because he's making a very provocative, in America, argument, right, that black men are discriminated against. And this is something that a lot of people, even well-educated people, have a hard time with. And so he's basically, I think, using the tone to support his argument and drive it home. So anyway, all this to say that tone and detail can be intertwined, and the language that you choose, like the words that you use, can bring out deeper meanings in your story, can contribute to the like mood of your story. And so if you're trying to write a creepy story, like choose creepy words. If you're trying to write a fun story, choose fun words. If you're trying to write a suspenseful story, choose suspenseful words. Remark on suspenseful details. So I think a fun writing exercise related to this would be to describe the same scene or even just the same room for, say, 2 or 3 different stories. One where you're trying to like do kind of a gothic novel, creepy vibe. Another where you're trying to write like an adventure story, and another where it's like romantic, or you could choose a different kind of story too. I mean, there's so many different kinds. But you would play up different details based on what tone you're going for. Yeah, and even just describing a room, I think, would be really interesting and fun. So I hope that this lesson helps you in your writing. Pay attention to tone and details. And I would love to hear if you do this writing exercise. You can share it on Instagram or on Twitter, share a link to it. If you write it on your blog or something like that, and just use the hashtag #ScratchPaperPodcast. That will be really fun. You can also comment on the show notes for this episode 20, which is on my website, aliciadelosreyes.com. It's ALICIA, D as in dog, E, L as in llama, OSREYES.com. And you can leave a comment there. I would love to hear about it. So thanks for listening, and happy writing.